Amitabh Tiwari, who himself has been traveling through the course of Bihar. What do you make of it, Amitabh? At one end, of course, there will be the jibes, the taunts that come with electioneering, like with what Yogi Adityanath said. But interesting to see the other two. One in terms of optics, Rahul Gandhi jumping in with the Mallah community, hoping that the larger political messaging reaches the Mallahs as well as Nishads, who could proverbially push the Mahagathbandhan from where they could stand at a 36-37%, a little more, which could define a lot for the MGB. On the other hand, Amitabh, you had the Prime Minister yesterday in Patna making a straight jibe at the MGB, but with a larger connotation of Jangalraj and the RJD.
No, of course, amongst the core voters of NDA, the fear of return of Jangalraj still works. And this largely works among the 35 plus or 30 plus age group. That's why it is significant. So one, despite all the development which can be credited to Nitish Kumar, Jangalraj or the return of Jangalraj is still one of the key factors of the election. And the announcement or the formal announcement of Tejashwi meant that the Prime Minister's attack would be focusing on Jangalraj or the return of Jangalraj, corruption and nepotism or dynastic politics, these three largely. Now, if you see the campaigners from both the sides, all star campaigners have their own defined roles. So you have a Yogi Adityanath who is talking about batenge to katenge. The north of Bihar, 70% of the Muslim population actually resides in the north of Bihar, and polarization seems to be working or has worked in Bihar in the past. We've seen in Simanchal that the NDA gets 12 and the Mahagathbandhan plus AIMIM 12, even in Lok Sabha 2 seats. So that's how his statements can be ascribed towards that. And Rahul Gandhi is trying to woo the EBC vote because the EBC vote is largely the support base of Nitish Kumar. And with the announcement of Mukesh Sahani as the deputy CM, the Mahagathbandhan hopes that the Mallah voter, which traditionally have voted for the NDA, shift towards Mahagathbandhan. Now, when any voting bloc shifts from one alliance to another, it creates a double impact. It creates a bigger swing than otherwise. So that's why I see Rahul Gandhi also making his attempts to get this vote back, because it is a very, very crucial vote bank in this election.
Well, you're right there, Amitabh, because it will be extremely crucial. The Mahagathbandhan would or has, at least in the past, found itself stuck between the MY plus question mark combined, where and how to get that incremental over 37% vote. And the Mallah community could prove to be that game changer if at all they vote for the Mahagathbandhan. So all those optics there. And Amitabh Tiwari was right, and I'll bring in Rajat Seti and Javed Ansari into this conversation. While the religious connotation might not work in most of Bihar because caste cuts religion, but in key areas like Simachal or even where the Darbhanga city seat is concerned, where it's religion that actually plays a huge part. So you have the likes of Yogi Adityanath who are campaigning across Bihar. But Rajat Seti, to bring you on this, how do you view all these optics?
Well, I think optics do play a role, especially when you have to tighten your narrative around core offerings. And when it comes to the UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath, he brings a message of consolidating the Hindu base, but also giving a no-nonsense governance, which remains deeply attractive across the hinterland of our country. And he carries that double message. And I believe over the past 2 weeks or so, we've seen this attack on Jangalraj getting piled up against the opposition, and there seems to be a lack of a coherent way of coming out of this Chakravyuh. We've seen this almost over the past 3 or 4 assembly election cycles, that Bihar elections happen and then opposition doesn't have a clear plan, and Congress is seen like deer in front of the headlights, where they believe that they haven't done anything when it comes to Jangalraj, but they still get accused and bucketed along with RJD. And this unease between the two parties, because of multiple reasons, comes out to the front, comes out to the fore, and they tend to result in all of the other attacks that the BJP was able to pile against them, exploiting the differences in strategy between the two parties. Therefore, I believe optics helps. I mean, Prime Minister has been ensuring that right from the very front, he is giving anecdotal evidences of Jangalraj, trying to bring the gory details of Jangalraj up to the people's conscience, and trying to evoke that same sort of imagery, which basically creates anxiety among people, and that anxiety has a lasting impact. Election over election, you've seen that. And I believe BJP has a very easy script cut out.
Okay.
The real creativeness could have come from the opposition. What creativity have they shown so far in order to break out of this mold? And this is where I feel that they did not put in the amount of thought,
Okay.
because this kind of attack was largely on predictable lines. So I believe, would Rahul Gandhi's dip in water get him the EBC vote? Absolutely not. It is not as easy. Look at the dominant Yadav community. Community has an influence over the larger OBC politics. You don't see space, a political space for EBC in the Mahagathbandhan fold. And just taking a dip may not be sufficient for Rahul Gandhi
Okay.
or for Tejashwi to build confidence among the EBCs that they will get space in the Mahagathbandhan equation.
Okay. I want to bring in Javed Ansari into this. Javed, three separate, one can call them, optics that have played out in the last 24 hours, hoping to define what the next 72 hours could bring, because voting is on the 6th of November. On the face of what the Prime Minister said, Javed, Rajat said, to play on anxiety. You can only play on anxiety if there is deep-seated fear. Many of us who are on ground do pick up the fact, Javed, that the ghosts of Jangalraj for Tejashwi are more difficult to shake than even the anti-incumbency against this government. So how do you see it all come together?
So look, it is my belief, I could be wrong, but it is my belief that this is going to be an election of small margins. The outcome will depend on whether or not the opposition is able to enlarge its bouquet to be able to wean away some of Mr. Nitish Kumar's vote. On the other hand, the NDA alliance, the big task is to keep its flock intact. If it's able to keep its social combination intact, then they'll get through. But then let's not forget that during the last elections, there was only a difference of 15 seats. If you actually calculate, then 7 seats, if the opposition had won 7 more seats, the results would have been totally different. So therefore, everything will depend or hinge on whether or not the opposition has been able to wean away. That is why this effort of wooing the Mallah community, the other EBCs, that's
Fair
why
point.
this political messaging of taking a dip in the gadai. In my part of the world, this is called gadai. We try and camouflage it by calling it a pond. If you've seen what a gadai is, then taking a dip, I mean, I won't do it. I don't know about the others, though I belong to that part of the world. So yes, these are all messages, and much of it is aimed at consolidating their own vote bank. The Prime Minister talking of Katta, Mr. Adityanath in trademark style, talking of Appu and Pappu and Tappu, and so we have to wait and see what more there is to come. Rahul's attempt, I think the onus has now been put on the task to woo the EBCs and woo the Dalits, who have so far not voted for the Mahagathbandhan earlier, has fallen on Mr. Rahul Gandhi. So much will depend on the level of success he achieves or he does not achieve. The results will hinge on that.